If today you hear God's voice, harden not your hearts. What would it take to believe, to change your life, to risk for the sake of the good news? In today's gospel, we hear that Jesus taught in the synagogue, and the people were astonished, amazed. People saw the difference between the scribes and Jesus. Something was authentic, clear, true in Jesus. Speaking with authority wasn't about external power, but an internal resonance, depth. Jesus knew something deep down. When you and I hear truth, we know it. They were meeting truth in love. Jesus also healed. He exorcised the demon here. He healed the vulnerable among them. The dark spirit recognized him as the Holy One of God and saw something would change as a result of Jesus. It did. And Jesus' fame spread throughout the land, and people were amazed. But is that enough? To be amazed? Must it not also lead us somewhere? Years ago, when I was between doctoral coursework and my dissertation, I had the privilege of a summer in Ghana, West Africa, with Dr. David Abdullahi and his family. Dr. Abdullahi was a Ghanaian physician working in Tamale, the western region of the country, a place without many resources and certainly not many doctors. His story was amazing. As I remember it, he was a street kid when some Catholic sisters encountered him and helped him with his education. Through turns and twists, he eventually went to medical school and then further training in Europe. He returned to Ghana, and he had a plum position as a doctor working for Germans who were living in the capital, Accra. He married a wonderful woman who was a nurse. Their faith was important to them, and they regularly prayed together. At one point, their prayer led them to discern a call to the margins, where health care was harder to come by. So they went to Tamale, the other side of the country, and started Shekinah Clinic, a free clinic for all. People traveled from all over, walking hours upon hours to line up for care. At one point, seeing the need, Dr. Abdullahi asked each of the surrounding villages to build a hut so that people had a place to stay while they were awaiting treatment on the clinic grounds. The huts were open to any and all in need. He built community. He built bridges between traditional medicine healers and more westernized medicine because each had something important to offer. I was in awe. One day, as we were driving to a gathering, I said, "What you are doing is amazing, Dr. Abdullahi. Why are others not doing more of this?" His answer, "Exactly because of what you said, Maria. You say this is amazing. This is not amazing. This is simply the gospel." He followed with, "If you say this is amazing, then you often get a sense that you don't have to do it. But it's the gospel, and we must." What does it take? Yes, some simply saw and were amazed, and some responded. Our gospel today is a wonderful in-between passage. It's because just a few lines earlier in Mark, we read of the call of the disciples. They saw, they heard Jesus' call, and they followed, leaving all behind. And immediately after our reading of Jesus teaching in the synagogue and exorcising the demons, Jesus goes with Peter to the house of Peter's mother-in-law, who was sick. Jesus healed her, and then she served them. Service was her natural response. By the end of that evening, we hear that the entire town came to the door, and Jesus healed. We too are in an in-between time. We're in between the beginning of the new year and the beginning of Lent. Both are times that invite us to deeper growth. And Jesus is eager to encounter us here. If today you hear God's voice, harden not your hearts. Jesus desires to encounter us right here and now, asking for more than amazement. Pope Francis also beautifully writes in The Joy of the Gospel of Encounter, I invite all Christians everywhere at this very moment to a renewed personal encounter with Jesus Christ, or at least an openness to letting him encounter them. What follows this? Missionary discipleship. In this in-between time and in the midst of so much happening in our nation and world today, a question asked of us is, where does the gospel need to be preached today? Whether as a resistance to wrongs and evil spirits, or in support and creation of all that is right and good in this time. Let's not simply be amazed. Let's act also. What would it take to act, to ever more mirror our life on Jesus' life, to be the good news to all we meet? In between also our readings, the psalm response for today is, if today you hear God's voice, harden not your hearts. That's the start. Openness to encounter. Prayer to be open, to be opened. God is eager, present. What will move? Everything. From how you see others in creation to how you respond to the needs and longings around you. If today you hear God's voice, harden not your hearts. It will take you beyond amazement to proclaiming by our words and deeds the good news that overcomes evil spirits, heals and creates anew. And so, shall we go together? Yes, with the risen Christ, we go together. Amen.